I'm an old steel train. Burning coal and pumping steam. I'm an old steel train. Well, I guess I will then. So anyway, I think the first thing on our agenda was to talk a little bit about the history of our musical genre, and we will get to that. We're not going to skip that part, but the kind of the music that we do is it's just based on like old American traditional music from like the the earliest days of recording. So there's an old railroad bridge in my hometown of Clearbrook, Minnesota. That's about probably, I don't know, 4 hours from here north. And they tore out all the railroad tracks up there, and they just left this bridge. And I just kind of, as a kid, I just kind of thought that was, I don't know, it's kind of like that bridge is just a reminder of the past. And also, I kind of felt bad for that bridge, just standing there by itself, nothing to do. And so I eventually wrote a song about it.
It's kind of like what we're doing with our music here. We're looking back at the past and paying homage to it. And it's really encapsulated by what the song that Chris wrote.
An old bridge, strong and tall, but my time is come and gone. They pull the rails, they pull the ties, and the trains don't run here anymore. You pass by each and every day in your trucks and cars on your highway. You don't need the trains, you say the trains don't run here anymore. Oh, but I stand to remind of the time when the railways were the lifeblood of the land. Your small towns fading away, born on the stops of the trains, but the trains don't run here anymore. Old buildings, they still stand where the trains met the timbered grain and the men. Now they're relics just like me, and the trains don't run here anymore. Oh, but I stand to remind of the time when the railways were the lifeblood of the land. Your small towns fading away, born on the stops of the trains, but the trains don't run here anymore. I'll just keep on standing high above the waters as they flow 50 feet below. I have stood 100 years, built of wood, steel, sweat and tears, and I will stand 100 more, but the trains won't run here anymore. This bridge will stand alone, 'cause the trains don't run here anymore. Thank you. In case you're wondering, this guitar is made of brass and copper, and it gets very hot. It's a little toasty. The town is Clearbrook. It's up northwest of Bemidji, about 45 minutes. It's way up there. Town of 500 people. So anyway, we kind of play a mishmash of genres. We don't really have one specific genre that we dabble in. We got some, I don't know, I tend to just call it country blues, which is just sort of a all-encompassing thing that people use to describe music that's, you know, like sort of hillbilly country meets Delta blues meets Piedmont blues, which is kind of more ragtime based, meets old gospel, and sometimes even a little bit of jazz mixed in there. And so we just try to go back and, you know, like, I mean, there's plenty of people making modern music. There's an old tradition there that of great music that I just like to see kept alive, and just kind of, well, that's what I listen to, and so I thought that, you know, and that's also kind of like a little community. There's a group of people that play this old music, and sort of just like a little subgenre of musicians that's fun to hang out with and fun to play music with, and you know, just something to keep alive. You know, this American tradition, old music that otherwise people might forget about. I think it's worth not forgetting about it.
Honor that tradition of storytelling and passing these songs down. And in that, we create new music that's inspired by that, and that's what this little section of songs is about. And Chris wrote this next song as well. This is Old Steel Train. Do you want to do that one?
Back-to-back train songs? Good thing I wore my train hat. I don't only write songs about trains, and you might get the impression based on these first two, but I do write about other things too sometimes.
We've talked about doing a whole train show because we have enough songs that are about trains or mention a train at some point. I think we could curate it.
We could probably do a whole train show, yeah, for sure.
We'll mix it up today.
Well, I guess you got to put this back on then.
Yeah, I guess so.
I am just really glad that it's not 99 degrees today, because this guitar would be on fire, literally on fire right now.
Get some ice water for your tips. You ever tried that?
No.
Just throwing it out there.
No, you just dip
Try
this
your
whole
beer.
guitar in ice water, and myself too. If anyone has a hose, feel free to just blast me with it while I'm playing. I'm not plugged into anything, so I don't think I'll get electrocuted. At least not directly. I wrote this song about Minnesota history, loosely based. When I was a kid, we went to the Railroad Museum in Duluth and checked out all the old cool trains and old engines and read about them. And probably like 30 years later, or no, not 30 years later, 20 years later, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to write a song about that. That's sort of loosely historically based, but I liked trains when I was a kid. I still do.
Enduring passion.
Yes, I still do. All right, here we go. The song's called Old Steel Train. I'm an old steel train, burning coal and pumping. ships I haul. I'm an old freight train. From the mines to the ships I haul. Picked up a load of ore and heavy into the Blue Harbor I roll. Let's roll. Well, they tore up all the tracks. Ran a highway down that road. Well, they tore up all the tracks. Ran a highway down that road. And since they had no more use for me, in a museum I did go. I'm an old steam train. Rolled across that big iron range. I'm an old steam train. Rolling across that big iron range. And if there's a heaven, Lord, I will ride these rails again, again, again. Let's ride. I'm an old steel train. Thank you. I was listening to a lot of Johnny Cash, Charlie Parr when I wrote that song. You know who Charlie Parr is? Anybody?
Yeah. I just saw him on Sunday. It was incredible. With the Corn Sweat. Name of his thing that he does with Macau.
That was kind of my Johnny Cash meets Charlie Parr song I tried to write. With a little bit of old Delta blues, with a little Robert Wilkins mixed in. He's an old Delta blues guy. Mixed a little old with the new, but old with the new doing the old.
Well, the next song we're going to do is a song that I wrote the lyrics to, and I think we all came up with the. You guys did the music to this one, if I remember right.
Depends on what song. Depends on what song we're doing.
Oh, I thought we were doing Misery.
Oh, okay.
Is that right?
What order are we doing?
Oh, I wrote down, yeah.
All right.
And then Where You Been, a Little Boy Blues.
All right. Okay.
Unless you want to, if you want to do all those.
Yeah. Let's do it.
But we had the pleasure of going down to Mississippi and playing in a blues festival down there. And we stayed not too far from one of the famed spots where Robert Johnson met the devil at the crossroads. I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but Story goes he traded his soul for the ability to play the blues. And so we stopped for a photo op, and apparently the devil doesn't like it even when you're joking. But we were taking pictures, and I was like, oh no, you know, don't do that. I shouldn't be doing it now.
Tempting fate.
And I like barely leaned on it, and it went down super fast. It was like one of those big metal signs, and I had to like slide out of the way, and I almost lost my toe. And so that actually made it into the song. But yeah, this is all about outrunning the devil. And it'll kind of go into some of the themes that we're going to talk about later when it comes to prohibition, when it comes to literally prohibiting the sale and enjoyment of alcohol, and then also the prohibition of other areas of our lives as well.
So on a related note, how many of you have seen the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Gotta enunciate that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how it was Tommy Johnson was selling his soul to the devil at the crossroads, not Robert Johnson? How many of you thought that was a creative license and they just changed the name for no reason? Well, they didn't. Actually, Tommy Johnson is the guy that sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads, and later that got erroneously attributed to Robert Johnson, and he sort of just, he was like totally okay with it because it made his reputation better, but he actually wasn't the original one said to have sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads. It was Tommy Johnson, who was not related to him, and we are going to do a Tommy Johnson song later also. So no, the Coen brothers did not get the name wrong or anything, or just decide to change it for some reason. It was actually the correct name of the guy that was rumored to have originally sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads. All right. Anyway, now you know. And maybe you already did know. I didn't know when I saw the movie, and then I found out later. Whoa. It's like, why didn't they just call him Robert Johnson in the movie? I had my guitar.
Okay?
I brought my guitar in to get fixed at the guitar shop I work at. I teach lessons at, and they gave it back to me today, and they just left out the part that I need to be able to plug my guitar into it. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just mic today then.
At least they left the strings.
They did leave the strings, so that's good.
No north, no south, no east or west. The roads of my past never led to my happiness. Wyoming, Minnesota, California, Georgia, Kansas, Vermont, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Alabama, New York, Florida. Texas and Maryland, Louisiana, Missouri, where I'm headed, honey, I can't tell. And if I did, you know it wouldn't beat you nowhere. Wyoming, Minnesota, California, Georgia, Kansas, Vermont, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Alabama, New York, Florida. Texas, Maryland, Louisiana, Missouri. Don't need no crossroads, devils everywhere, lovers, sinners, seconds beware. Gonna leave this town because I'm here in our lives. Then I'm the others, ragged teeth, those better Negroes will soon be on me. Don't you know that you will surely die? You look into those eyes twice, and if you're ready to hurry, the lost my toe. Leaving town or is to stay. One thing's for sure, no time to hesitate. You won't find me just confusion to be found. I'm living by plane or train or walking grey. I'm in Minnesota, California, Georgia, Kansas, Vermont, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Alabama, New York, Florida. Texas, Maryland, Louisiana, Missouri, Thank you. Did you try it? Did you dip the fingers?
What's that?
Did you dip the fingers? Is that
I
what I
just
said?
didn't want to drink a bug.
Oh, okay. I think you wanted to try the dip the fingers. That's a pretty good idea. I mean, I would be doing it.
Dipping your fingers or drinking a bug?
Oh, probably both.
Oh yeah, I need this one. Oh yeah, I need that. Well, which one do you want to do? Which one would you rather talk about right now?
Let's do Little Boy Blues.
Oh, okay, I got a tune then. So talk for a while.
Unless you want to do that one, then you don't have to tune.
Well, I got to tune the other guitar.
Okay then.
That one I don't have to tune.
Well, speaking of passing on your love for music, and in this case, the blues, I have been blessed with 8 nephews, and there's an older batch and a younger batch, and there's 3 of them who are 8 years old, and actually, Chris had the pleasure, my parents are in town, I was at my sister's, he picked me up there, too much information. But they're all excited because they're meeting today, because 2 of them, the twins, are flying into town from Pennsylvania and haven't seen each other in forever with COVID times. And when I got over there this morning, I saw my nephew. I said, "How are you?" He said, "I'm good. I'm just out here looking out the window. You know, I'm really looking at my watch a lot today." and so they're being reunited. And back in the day when they're little teeny tiny frogs, as we would call them, they just loved our music and would come and they knew every song. And like kids now, when they would do like the Baby Shark on repeat, it was our music videos that they would have on repeat all the time. And so they just love coming to our shows. And I'm not a video games, so I'm not as interesting now. But that's a joke. But if some of you know any children or anyone under the age of like 40, you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, Chris wrote this song about these little boy blues who are just little lovers of the blues and know about the genre that most of their friends and contemporaries, they don't know about it. So they're going to be the ones introducing the next generation. So this is Little Boy Blues for Jack, Luke, and Vince, who are hopping around right now like crazy.
All right.
When the band is rocking, they'll come around. 3 little boys who can really get down. Dancing and singing along with the crowd. Give them 20 years and they'll own this town. Oh, lead the boy blues, 1, 2, 3. Come below your kazoo or shake your tambourine. They might know the lyrics better than we do. Little monkey see, little monkey do. come grab your shoes and get down with it. Oh, leaderboard blues, 1, 2, 3, you come below your kazoo, shake your tambourine. I have a feeling they're going to be up when I get back at midnight. Hopping around. A little taller now, they're 8.
All right.
Where are you back? Were you back?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the next batch.
Well, I don't know. Does anyone have any questions about anything before we continue on? One more, our last original song we're going to do before we get into the next section of the program. Any questions about what we do or who we are or why we look the way we do?
We might have answers.
What's that? Everything. Oh, man. All right. Well, you know, so we talked about this in the little interview we did, but Amanda, how did you get into this kind of music? I would like to know.
Yeah. Well, I've been singing ever since I can form memories. I just always liked doing that. It was introduced, my parents are in their 70s, kind of mid to late 70s, and so they introduced me to a lot of early music, and then a cousin of mine who moved down to Phoenix, there's a really big blues scene down there, rhythm rooms down there, there's a lot of blues that comes in and out of there, and so she brought that influence back to me and was, you know, sneaking me into these places where these musicians were playing, and my love grew there. And then just in high school and college, I really kind of, through school assignments, I guess, if you will, I started getting really into the history of music, and then that just really took me off on my personal journey. And then singing blues in college is another thing that I helped solidify my love for this genre. And so I was happy I left this type of music for a while, and I was happy to come back when I moved to Minneapolis. I'm a South Dakota girl. Yeah, South Dakota. Nope. And then I spent time in California doing some other kind of stuff, other kind of music. And so then I came back here and luckily found him. And his musical journey connected him with some people and he'll tell you a little bit about that himself.
Yeah, so how many of you kind of grew up in the 60s? As I did not, but my parents did, and they still had all their records. They had all their old 45 records from when they were kids, that kind of from like maybe the earliest was late 50s probably through like early 60s. And they just gave them to me and my sisters, and we had a little Fisher-Price record player. And so when we were little kids, instead of like listening to kids' music, we would listen to like the Beatles on 45, or Lovin' Spoonful, or Bobby Fuller 4's I Fought the Law was my favorite song when I was a kid. So anyway, I grew up on like early 60s music, and a lot of that was sort of influenced by this kind of stuff. And later I got into my dad's record collection when I was a little older, and I got into his, Rolling Stones records, and I was, his actually full album Beatles albums, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Neil Young, stuff like that, a little bit of Led Zeppelin, things like that. And I got really into CCR, and I was really into that music for, that was my favorite music from that point forward, until I met the guy that was the original founding drummer of this band, and we had this idea because he also grew up on that music from his dad's record collection, and we were like, well, we need to find out what those guys were listening to. And so we dug into the influences of the guys that we loved, and we found out that these guys covered a lot of old blues songs and old country songs and stuff like that. So we found those guys that they were covering, and then the guys that influenced those guys, and we got really dug way back into the early blues, early country type stuff, and I kind of just got stuck there. I never left. I stayed back there. My probably two favorite eras of music are the 1960s and the 1920s. Is my other favorite. A lot of my favorite artists were right out of the 1920s. 1920s jazz I love, and you won't necessarily see a ton of the jazz influence when we're doing this together, but like more so that will come into the rhythm parts of some of the stuff that we do. We'll have a little bit of a jazz rhythm too, with old style stuff, but we've done some old jazz. We have done some old jazz actual covers too, but like a lot of old jazz, early New Orleans jazz, a lot of Delta blues, acoustic blues, Piedmont blues, which is more East Coast. It's more like based on ragtime. It's like guitar players trying to copy old ragtime music. And old country, Jimmy Rogers is one of my heroes. Father of country music, they call him. And then got into a lot of Chicago blues too, like Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Water stuff. And Hank Williams, one of my heroes too. So once I got back into that old music, then I just kind of never left, and I've been there ever since. And then I just wanted to play. And so that's what we do. All right, this is a song that Amanda mostly wrote. We were lucky enough to be along for the ride and help her finish it up and record it.
Yeah, this is Where You Been. It's about a couple things. I thought it was about one thing, and then later I was like, oh, it's about that too. So it's a little bit about like loving someone and letting them go and thinking they're going to come back and then they don't, or loving someone and then being out and they're out with somebody else and you're like, where have you been? So if you've ever felt that, which is probably most of you, here we go, come along for this ride. Hopefully not most of you. I don't I wish I would. But we love, we live, and we learn. It's part of life. It's near day's end. It seems my troubles, they won't be over until I hold you again. Oh, but I was hoping I would lead you back home. I just hear your words over and over and over and over, baby. Tell me this ain't over. I'll search every crowd, and I'll keep throwing your name around. I will start pounding doors down, baby. I just need you around.
Search all day and I search all night.
Search
Search all day and I search all night. Search all day and I search all night.
Where have you been?
Search all day.
Where have you been? Oh,
Search all day.
where have
Search all night.
Where have you been? Where have you been? Oh, where have you been? Where have you
Search all day and I search all night.
Oh, where have you been? Thank you.
I'd like to personally thank these clouds right here for coming out. Thank you for coming out, clouds. All right.
Well,
I guess that brings us to part 2 of our presentation, if I can remember correctly from my notes that I can't see right now. If anyone sees like an old iPhone 6 anywhere, that's probably mine. I doubt anyone else still has one, so it's around here somewhere. I know it made it here. And I'm pretty sure no one stole it, because why would you steal it? It's an iPhone 6 that barely works. So.
Well, the next section was all about songs that influenced us.
Yes, correct.
So early influential songs. So like Held On and Ask for Water.
Sounds good to
A
me.
couple of those.
I think we should.
Yeah, so we'll do a couple songs by some of those people that we've already mentioned.
All right, I want somebody to tell me. Anyone have a favorite artist that they just want to tell me about? A favorite musician of all time? Nobody wants to be on the spot? Well, personally, I have a few, but I'm going to say that the one that probably is dearest to my heart is Howlin' Wolf. And I didn't even know about Howlin' Wolf, really. I mean, I had heard the name, but I didn't really even know about him until maybe about 12 years ago. And then I got a hold of a Howlin' Wolf CD, and I think I seriously listened to that CD every day in my car for an entire year and never took it out. And I loved it so much that, so right after I started listening to this CD, like a couple years later, found out it would have been Howlin' Wolf's 100th birthday. And so we were like, well, we need to put on a Howlin' Wolf 100th birthday show. And so we did, and it was really fun, and so we did it for 5 years in a row. And this is one of the first Howlin' Wolf songs that we actually learned as a band, and it's sort of just become a staple that every band show pretty much we've ever done since that point, and every solo show that I've done since that point, I always do this song. So we're going to do this song for you, because this is one of the most important songs in my world anyway.
And I can attest to him leaving one song or one CD in the player for a year, having been on the road with him in the same band for 7 years.
Oh, yeah.
He does have a 5-disc changer, luckily.
Yep.
So there's a bit of a variety.
I did the same thing with, I think maybe a year later, I did the same thing with Hank Williams. Had Hank Williams in my car for a year.
Yeah. Oh, one CD is just yodeling.
This is correct. I do have a yodeling CD. All the songs are yodeling songs.
Amazing. That's my favorite one.
If you ever see anyone just driving down the road yodeling away at the top of their lungs, it's probably me. It is mostly, I doubt there's anyone else doing that right now. Speaking of yodeling,
These part of town, anyways.
so this back to the history thing. Speaking of yodeling, Howlin' Wolf was like this giant, you know, he was like 6'6", 300-pound Chicago blues man, and he always claimed his favorite musician was Jimmy Rogers, the father of country music. And he always, Howlin' Wolf, howled, hence his name, Howlin' Wolf. Like, howling was his thing. And he said the only reason he learned to howl was because he couldn't yodel like Jimmy Rogers, but that was as close as he could get. He wanted to be a yodeling country music singer. But, you know, also, you know, you're born in Mississippi, that's not really, you know, you're a black Mississippi-born 6'6", 300-pound guy. They don't generally channel you to country music, so he became a blues singer, but he always wanted to be Jimmy Rogers, so he learned to howl.
Chris, you're really good at this.
At talking too much?
Yeah.
If you want me to shut up, you can just say, hey, play more music and stop talking so much.
No, it's good.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I'm
I should have been
learning right
tuning
along
while I
with
was talking.
I know, you should have told me that story. Oh. But yeah, this has been a fun one of ours that we've done for a number of years. A number of different ways, with a number of different people. So it's going to be fun to be able to do tonight with just him and I, and kind of hear it stripped down a bit here. But those Howlin' Wolf shows sure were fun. And we got some really neat people to come up and play with us. Was it me, Joe, that came up on that?
What's that?
Who came that one here to sing with us? Who came up and sang with us before for that?
For that? What are you thinking? No, Kent Brookside played it.
Yep.
What was that? We had you guys from like Mississippi and Texas and stuff.
Yeah, we had a couple people come up and we got them to come up to these northern parts.
Yep. Play some Howlin' Wolf songs. All right. So, sorry about that. I forgot to tune my guitar. There we go. That's better. So this is our Howlin' Wolf song we're going to do. Fun fact, this is also a Tommy Johnson song. Back to Tommy Johnson. All roads lead to Tommy Johnson. I asked for water. Well, she brought me gasoline. Well, I asked for water. Well, she brought me gasoline. Well, that's the troubles, woman, I have seen. Well, tell me, baby. Well, when are you coming home? Well, tell me, pretty baby. Well, been gone too long. Church bells tolling. Well, hearse come driving slow. Church bells tolling. Well, hearse come driving slow. Don't leave me no more. Oh my baby, ooh my baby, don't leave me no more. I won't leave. I hold my baby. I won't leave. Oh baby, don't you leave me no more. Baby, I won't leave you no more. Oh my baby, oh baby. Don't leave me no more. Don't leave no more. Well, well, he asked for water. Well, but I gave him. I asked for water. Well, she brought me gasoline. Well, why don't you talk about one that you want to do about one of your influences, Amanda?
How about this train?
Alright, we can do that one. Talk about a little bit of your gospel influence here?
Yeah, definitely. Grew up going to a country church in just outside of Wakanda, South Dakota, and I'm sure you're all familiar. You've probably all visited.
I actually did visit 3 weeks ago. I visited Wakanda in South Dakota. It's quite the place.
I really talk it up. We really do our best.
There were no Panthers there, in case you're wondering.
But yeah, I loved singing in the church growing up. And then singing in school and singing in choir. I just had a love for the Gospels and love for that sound. And that resonates with us. And so this one combines the gospel with our love of trains. That's important.
And it's also like
marriage.
You know, a lot of stuff that we think of as like old time, a lot of stuff that gets kind of lumped in with Delta blues back from that early era was actually just them singing gospel songs, and it wasn't blues at all. And they were singing because they weren't not supposed to sing the blues, so they would sing gospel songs to make their moms happy. Mm-hmm. And then they would sneak off and do the blues under a different name sometimes. But
I'm sure there's a little tongue-in-cheek there, because there's a verse in here that's this train don't carry no gamblers, no whiskey drinkers, no midnight ramblers. And I've sang that many times while holding a whiskey at a club, you know, much later at night when the sun goes down, of course. So I imagine they had a little bit of that.
That ties in with the theme of the night too, of the prohibitions. Especially a lot of, well, not just the blues guys, a lot of the country guys too. They were singing the music that their moms did not approve of, and you know, and so a lot of times they would throw in some gospel stuff just to kind of make mom happy or make their families happy. You know, hey mom, I'm singing the gospel here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not singing the blues. This is a gospel song. But then they would release it and it would go on their blues records, you know, later on. And so there's a lot of crossover between the blues and the country guys from that era.
And the early rock and rollers too.
And that too. And Johnny Cash started out trying to play gospel music until
Wanda Jackson.
Yep. Until you know, he went to Sun Studio and they said, we can't sell this stuff, sing some non-gospel stuff. But he always made sure later in life, once he had the power, once he had the ability to determine what he got to release, he put out a lot of gospel stuff. And a lot of those guys did. They wanted to put out the gospel stuff too.
And introduced to those crowds to those things, so they'd sing a gospel song with that country beat underneath it, and they didn't realize, oh, I'm singing along to a country song.
Yep.
But yeah, it broadened their taste and changed the course of music.
Needless to say, the church gave us a lot of great music.
Yeah.
This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, don't care much about the righteous and the holy. This train is bound for glory, this train. Well, this train don't carry no gamblers, this train. This train don't carry no gamblers, this train. This train don't carry no gamblers, no whiskey drinkers, no midnight ramblers. This train is bound for glory, this train. Train is built for speed, this train. This train is built for speed, this train. This train is built for speed, the fastest train you ever did see. This train is built for speed, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, don't care much about the righteous and the holy. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is built for speed, this train. This train is built for speed, this train. This train is built for speed, the fastest train that you ever did see. This train is bound for glory. This train, oh, this train is bound for glory. This train.
I had to really sing it like I meant it at the end. After that joke earlier. Oh. Gotta get back in the good graces. We gotta drive home tonight. Oh, shoot.
All right. So, sort of to tie back to that, actually, there's a little segue here. It's exactly how we planned it, but talked about Tommy Johnson, we talked about Robert Johnson, and so Robert Johnson, on the other hand, was not a particularly religious man, obviously, as he was more than happy to adapt the legend of the crossroads to himself in order to make himself more notorious. But actually, he did, apparently they now know he learned to play guitar by playing in a graveyard. He would go in the graveyard at night because it was a quiet place with this guy that taught him how to play guitar, and that's where he learned to play guitar. So maybe not that far off, but he wrote a song, and well, actually, a little about Robert Johnson. The reason that he sounds so much different than so many of the other blues guys that kind of came out of that era, one of the reasons is that he played a lot of white dances, and he was known for being the guy who could learn all the songs, like any song that anybody would want to hear. Like, he played the black dances and he played the white dances, so he learned all the pop songs too. And some of that influence kind of seeped into his blues, and it kind of made it a little more, they thought it sounded a little more, you know, polished than sort of the other Mississippi guys that were a little more raw. And so that's kind of what a part of what his notoriety came from. I've read a few books about him, and that's one of the interesting things I learned was that he was equally popular at white dances because he knew all the songs. Like, so, you know, he could go to the party and come and they'd let him in the back door and he'd play music, and then they'd send him out of there and you can't hang out with us, but you can come play some music. And so, but he was supposed to be not John Hammond. Who's John Hammond? Maybe John Hammond Sr. I don't remember. But John Hammond was a famous promoter in New York City back in the 30s. I think it was John Hammond Sr. Anyway, John Hammond Sr. found out about Robert Johnson, and he was putting on a big show in New York featuring a bunch of blues artists and black music, basically featuring black music, you know, to expose the white folks, the white rich folks in New York to black music, or American black music. And he wanted to bring Robert Johnson there to play for that crowd, and he sent somebody to Mississippi to find him, and he had already died. He had been poisoned drinking whiskey, you know, because as Robert Johnson would, because he was not on that train.
By the husband of a lover, they
He was
say.
not on the train that doesn't allow no whiskey drinkers and midnight ramblers. He was definitely a midnight rambler. But they think that if he would have been able to play that show, he would have become, you know, really famous at the time even. And so, but the Hellhound was always on his trail, and the Hellhound did catch him. So he lived a fast life, and he could not outrun the Hellhound. But he wrote a song about it, and we're going to play that song.
If today was Christmas Eve,
Man, we're doing good on time here. That's good. I can do that. That kind of keeps us in our little. So yeah, it's all tying all this together, kind of. Intertwines.
What's that? We're gonna do an intermission.
Yeah, should we do it now, or do you want us to do one more song?
We can do one more song, yeah. That's
We'll do one more song and we'll do an intermission here.
Perfect. Then we'll go into our last little set of songs all about prohibition.
It's good timing too because my beer is getting.
Before we talk about prohibition, let's go fill up.
I need a beer if I'm going to talk about that. Anyway. So, this kind of ties back into my favorite artists and how intertwined a lot of that music was. So, one of my other favorite artists is not maybe the guy that would secondarily be considered maybe the father of country music, Hank Williams. And Hank Williams actually learned to play guitar by an old black blues singer. And his favorite artist was also Jimmie Rodgers, hence he learned to yodel. So, like Howlin' Wolf, he loved Jimmie Rodgers, but he was taught to play guitar by an old black blues singer in his hometown in Alabama. So, naturally, Hank Williams had a lot of blues in his country songs. Like I would say a good portion of his music was very blues-based. And a lot of country music, even to this day, is still very blues-based. And I think that the thing that a lot of people don't necessarily realize is that a lot of country seeped into blues, too. And especially early on, it's sort of more, as blues kind of went further along, the country influence kind of fell out a little bit, and it kind of got more standardized into the 12-bar blues with the minor pentatonic scale that we all know and think of as blues today. But in the early days, a lot of the blues music was just, it was very similar to country music. It used more major key melodies, and it had, you know, more of the, like they did a lot of like old folk ballads and more like country type stuff back then, and there's just a lot of, you know, intermingling of the music back then before the, and really what happened, the biggest thing that happened is the record companies got involved and they said, well, hey, you're black, so you got to play blues music. We got to record blues songs for you. And, oh, you're white. We don't want you to, you know, we'll let you play songs that say blues in the title, but we won't let you sing about what the blues singers sing about necessarily exactly. And so it kind of just got separated a little bit, and it sort of became a little more subtle these days and not quite as out in the open that they were.
And then people started making money.
And, you know, people started making money. You know, like you said, Robert Johnson, he played all the pop songs back in that era, but he didn't record any of them. He recorded mostly blues stuff because that's what they thought they could sell.
So we'll do this last one here, and then we'll take a short break and be back with some more.
But anyway, this is Hank Williams,
Yeah.
and the song is Long Gone Lonesome Blues.
Blues. There you go.
And it's inspired by Jimmie Rodgers with the yodel. And the structure is very blues. Went down to the river to watch the fish swim by. When I got to the river, so lonesome I wanted to die. Oh Lord. And then I jumped in the river, but the doggone river was dry. She's a long gone now. I'm lonesome blue. Had me a woman who wouldn't be true. She made me for my money, then she made me blue. A man needs a woman that he can lean on, but my leaning post is done left and gone. She's a long gone now. I'm lonesome blue. checking me out. Along about Monday, she was nowhere about. And here it is, Tuesday, had no news. Got them gone, but not forgotten the blues. She's alone. I'm lonesome blue. Gonna find me a river, one that's cold as ice. When I find in that river, said, Lord, I'm gonna pay the price. So, Lord, I'm going down in it 3 times, but Lord, I'm only coming up twice. She's alone, gone now. I'm lonesome blue. She's alone, gone now. I'm lonesome blue. She's alone, gone now. I'm lonesome blue. She's alone, gone now. I'm lonesome blue.
Thank you.
All right, just as a footnote to what I was saying there, there's a lot of people that think that country music was actually invented by African Americans. That's kind of questionable, but they were definitely early pioneers of what we could consider country music with string bands. A lot of the first string bands and fiddle bands and stuff were mainly African American, and so it's not too surprising that early on, the early days, they played a lot of country music within their stuff. And I think the reason that they stopped playing is that they started seeing that the white people were the ones that were making all the money from it, and they're like, hey, we got blues, and let's not play their music and let them get all the money for it. So it's nice to see a little more diversity coming back into country music, and I appreciate that. So, all right, we'll take a break and come back to it.
What's that? Oh, I thought I heard something. Well, we're going to do some more songs here, and this batch of songs are going to be inspired by prohibition. And that could literally mean like prohibition times in terms of alcohol, but other things that were prohibited as well.
Yep, it's kind of a general theme of prohibition, of not necessarily, legal prohibition of anything. Sometimes it might just be cultural prohibition or just familial prohibition about things that were considered to be sort of prohibited, and how music affected that and how that affected music. And
so the next one we're going to do is called Women Be Wise, which is an old Zippy Wallace song, and you might know it. Bonnie Raitt. Any Bonnie Raitt fans out there? Yeah. So she recorded this also, and she has a version that she does with Zippy on it too. And I love it. It's a really cool song. So we like to do this one. It's called Women Be Wise, and it's kind of interesting. It's all about it's got a little bit of a looser connection to things being prohibited, per se. But what we were kind of highlighting here was the advice given is, women be wise, keep your mouth shut, don't advertise your man. And so in that, the onus being on the woman to keep the man interested. I can't even say that without laughing. Luckily, I like looking interesting in the mirror. I would look like a bag woman every day. But anyways, yeah, so there, historically has been this idea that the woman has to keep the man interested, and less of the pressure on the man to, be faithful, that kind of stuff.
Yep. The man can't help it. You know, he just.
Yeah, they just can't
he
help
just,
it.
He doesn't have any
Just
responsibility
can't
in
help
this.
it.
It's not my fault.
So,
It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
but yeah, this is called Women Be Wise.
Now, women be wise. Keep your mouth shut. Don't advertise your man. Don't you ever sit around holding no conversation, explaining what your good man can do. 'Cause these women nowadays, they no good. They will laugh in your face, then try to steal your man from you. Now women be wise. Keep your mouth shut. Don't you advertise your man. Don't be no fool. Don't you advertise your man. Well, now you see your best girlfriend. Well, she might look like some kind of highbrow, but baby, I've seen her change at least 3 times a day. What do you think she's doing now while you're so far away? She's loving your man and in your own bed. You better call for the doctor, mama. You better investigate your head. Now women be wise. Keep your mouth shut. Don't you advertise your man.
Dust this thing off.
Well, women be wise. Keep your mouth shut. Don't you advertise your man. Don't you ever sit around holding no conversation, explaining what your good man can do. 'Cause these women nowadays, well, they no good. They will laugh in your face and try to steal your mind from you. Now, woman, be wise. Keep your mouth shut and don't advertise your mind. Don't be no fool. Hey, no. All right, thank you.
All right, so that goes a little bit into kind of prohibiting the way we express ourselves, maybe through our relationships and how kind of things have changed. And then women were able to like have bank accounts, and then they didn't like have to have a man to survive.
Do you want to talk about how a lot of those songs, especially by the female blues singers back then, the man wasn't actually a man, but they just replaced man with
it was actually
a lot of those early, the really famous early black blues singers, women, were actually lesbians, and that was not allowed back then. So instead of singing about their woman, they sang about their man, even though the songs were not about their man.
Well, or sometimes the song would like start off talking about a man and be like, there's a guy in a boat, and yeah, he's just a guy in a boat. But then there's these women, and they go to these parties late at night with other women where no men aren't allowed. And then there's this guy on a boat, and there's a guy in the boat over there, and there's a guy on the boat. So they would kind of couch that in there too. So like Ma Rainey and Bessie Smith too. So that was a thing, obviously, that was prohibited at the time, who you could marry. And so, these musicians at the time, they weren't like highly regarded people in the community. It wasn't seen as like a thing that was, you were on the up and up. So you were really on the fringe of society if you were people making this music. And so a lot of times it didn't matter. People weren't finding out because these were very niche crowds, and these songs weren't being sung everywhere. They were really in parts of society that the dominant culture never saw or wasn't a part of. So. But yeah, that's some things that are kind of interesting about the start of music and blues, female singers anyways.
Has anyone heard of Sister Rosetta Tharpe? Anybody? So surprisingly, not many people have heard of her because at one time she was extremely famous. So famous that she got married to a man in a football stadium, a sold-out NFL football stadium in the 50s. And she's considered by many to be like the godmother of rock and roll, even though she only played gospel music, because she really rocked that gospel music and that really put some energy into it. But cultural prohibitions, she never sang anything but gospel music because she was very, she came from a religious background, and it was, she was basically under cultural pressures not to sing anything but gospel music. And she was also very much a lesbian, and she married a man because she was trying to hide the fact that she was lesbian. And so she had a huge public wedding to a man in a football stadium that sold out in the 50s. But look her up. She's awesome. This train that we did earlier, she does a great version of that with a whole gospel choir. And, you want to see, she's really just she's a guitar god, too. She just rocks the guitar, and she's just the big black woman just rocking that guitar and singing the gospel songs. And you're like, all right, I can see how this is definitely, and she's a big influence on Little Richard, for one thing. And so if you watch some of those videos, you'll understand why they call her the godmother of rock and roll. But in two ways, kind of the cultural prohibition sort of drove her to where she went with her career. Let's do Canned Heat. We've been talking about Tommy Johnson an awful lot here.
So this is talking literally about prohibition and the sale of alcohol.
So Tommy Johnson, who we've talked about, was he was addicted to drinking Sterno. I don't know. Does anyone know what Sterno is? So he couldn't get actual alcohol, like alcohol. It was prohibition, and he was poor, and it was prohibition, and he was an addict. So he would drink Sterno. And
do you want to tell the people who don't know what Sterno is?
Sterno, also called canned heat, was like, I probably don't even really know what Sterno is technically. I mean, it's some kind of like, was it like wood alcohol or something? Wood alcohol? Yeah, it's not something you're supposed to drink anyway. Basically, it's poison. And, but when they couldn't get actual alcohol, like distilled grain alcohol, they would drink wood alcohol and poison themselves. And he wrote a song about it, about his addiction. Another thing that sort of a cultural prohibition about not talking about addictions, but you could talk about it in a song. So, you don't talk about being an addict unless you write a song about it. Back then, especially, I think so.
So this is called Canned Heat.
crying can't eat, mama, sure Lord's killing me. Take alcohol to take away these can't eat blues. Crying mama, 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 crying can't eat, killing me. Crying mama, 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 can't eat is killing me. Yeah, the can't eat don't kill me, swear I'll never die. Crying low, Lord, I wonder. Crying can't eat, killing me. And the alcohol is tearing apart my soul. But my own dear sweet woman won't give me no easy roll. Well, I woke up this morning, crying can't eat, killing me. Running here, somebody, take these can't eat blues. Running here, somebody, take away these can't eat blues. Crying mama, 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 crying can't eat, killing me. Crying mama, 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 can't eat, sure killing me. Yeah, the can't eat don't kill me, swear I'll never die, never die. Can't eat blues, killing me. Can't eat blues, killing me. Can't eat blues. Lord, Lordy, Lord. Thank you. So that was our most directly prohibition-related song we're gonna do. If they ever ban alcohol again, don't start drinking wood alcohol. I wouldn't recommend it. I've never tried it, but I would think that's probably not good. But you know, the relation to prohibition. There's a lot of old blues songs that are about subjects that are prohibited. You know, that's part of the fun when you're doing old blues songs back then. When you're playing in a juke joint, you can sing about all the things you're not supposed to be doing, and the people loved it. You know, like songs about gambling, songs about killing your wife or killing your husband, or you know, like you're not. You know, there was a lot of songs about that stuff. You know, songs about doing cocaine. How many cocaine songs were there back then? I mean, there's many. And you know, champagne and reefer, or muddy waters, or you know. But has anyone heard of the genre of blues music called hokum? Anyone know what hokum is? Oh man, you're missing out. Think of every sexual taboo you can think of, and now think of all the possible innuendos you could use for those sexual taboos, and that's what hokum is. It's just songs about. Yeah. If you think that any song you've ever heard now is raunchy, you've never heard anything until you've heard like old, especially
Lucille Bogan?
Lucille Bogan. That would make.
I can't even quote the lyrics.
It's the randiest
not
thing.
suitable for work.
Randiest thing you've ever heard in your life. So don't listen to it before church. No, we don't perform those.
We joked about it.
I don't know
We
that.
should
I don't
do
know
it.
that.
This is outdoors, though. There might be
Yeah.
a mine or.
You might. I'll get too embarrassed if we tried to do that. We would have to cancel the rest of the show.
One of the songs is "Honey, why don't you shave 'em dry?"
So there's like
There's
song
one to
titles like.
look up. And that's at least a part. That's like at least a title I can say.
What's some of the? Trying to think of some. Bo Carter is one of the famous hokum singers. What was the one? Something. We wrote down a few titles that I can't remember. This is why I need my notes. Warm My Wiener is one. And it's just all hot dog. It's
Oscar
literally
Mayer.
all hot dog innuendos in the song, but yeah. So if you want to hear some of the dirtiest music you've ever heard in your life, look up hokum. But
Careful where you listen.
careful where you listen to it, and there's all these taboos that you weren't supposed to talk about. They figured out creative ways to talk about it in cheeky ways that didn't directly say what they were talking about. So. If you want to learn some new innuendos, just listen to hokum too.
Or Tutti Frutti.
Yeah, that was actually.
That was Tutti Frutti. Good booty was the original lyric on that. If you didn't know.
It became a little more subtle later in their innuendos. But.
Yeah, a little bit. They had to hire someone. Well, Little Richard took that from somebody that was doing kind of a different version of it. I was just hearing about that on Cocaine and Rhinestones. It's a podcast. It's just really interesting. It talks about the history of country music. So I highly recommend that if you're country music fans. All right, well, let's do it. What do you want to do? Oh, I thought you had one in mind. Do you want to do Trouble in Mind?
Yeah, Trouble in Mind.
Trouble in Mind? So this is one where it was never like illegal per se, this thing that was prohibited, but it's kind of the talk around like mental health and how that was just more taboo, and it's becoming a little bit more accepted these days to talk about diagnoses, being more upfront about seeing mental health experts and utilizing them, and just not being ashamed to do that. And giving emotional language to us adults, so we can kind of cope with treating each other better on this planet. But this song is all about trouble in mind. So this is talking about suicide and how.
Long Gone Lonesome Blues also.
Yeah.
It's also about suicide.
Absolutely. And it's still very prevalent in our society today, and sadly the numbers have grown. But that's why we want to talk about this and put it out there. And they always say, if you need something, reach out. But that's the last thing someone who is suffering a mental health crisis can do, is reach out. Those tools just aren't at their grasp. So if you haven't heard from somebody in a while, reach out to them, because you might save a life. You might be thinking of somebody right now that you maybe wish that you would have reached out to. So extend that to others in your life.
Yeah, and unfortunately I know that all too well. This past year I've lost 2 friends. One was a former bandmate to suicide, and so definitely reach out to your people and make sure they're doing all right.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece of advice. It's always like, I'm here if you need anything. But they're not able to do that. Or they don't think you care. They think they're a burden.
Yeah. Sort of still feels like a little bit of a cultural prohibition to.
A bit. It's growing though. Awareness is growing, and so yeah, just pushing that on.
But back in the day, blues music was one of the outlets that people could
Yeah,
talk about it.
absolutely.
There's a lot of songs about like a worried man blues or worried all the time, or so just people. That's why people think that the blues is sad music. Well, actually, blues was mostly party music if you listen to a lot of the old stuff. But there was a few songs like this where they were okay with talking about deeper stuff, and blues got the reputation of being sad music mainly because there are songs that are a little more deep than people were used to back then, and so talking about subjects that people didn't usually sing about back then.
Trouble in mind, oh, I'm blue, but I won't be blue always. You know the sun is gonna shine in my back door someday. I'm going down to the river, gonna bring my old rocking chair, and if those blues won't leave me, well, I'm gonna wash away there. Oh, trouble, Lord, trouble, my worried mind. When you see me laughing, well, I'm just laughing to keep from crying. I'm all alone after midnight in my life is burning low. I've never had this much trouble in my life before. Trouble in mind, oh, that's true. I have almost lost my mind. Sometimes life ain't worth living, and I start thinking about dying. I'm gonna lay my head on some lonesome road line. I'm gonna let one of those 1800s satisfy this worried mind. Trouble in mind, oh, that's true, but I'll be blue always. You know the sun is gonna shine. Oh, you know that sun is gonna, it's gotta shine. Oh, you know it's, oh, it's gonna shine on me someday.
Do you
It's kind of similar. But I think we do it.
So, I guess.
We can do it.
So this is a song that Chris wrote, and it's all about blues, and it's called "Wearing My Blues Like a Crown." So it's kind of reflecting that, hopefully, that growth that we've seen in the field of mental health. So recognizing that the blues are a part of life, and just accepting that, and knowing that the sun's going to shine on you someday, and just keep going and have faith. So this is about being blue, you know, not knowing it's going to pass, and just being okay with it for a minute. When I'm feeling blue, I turn on to the saddest movie I can find, and drink some wine, wearing my blues just like a crown. It doesn't make me feel better, just more comfortable being safe in that embrace, wearing my blues just like a crown. And don't you even try to cheer me. Don't you even try and make me laugh. 'Cause when I'm down, I'm wearing my blues just like a crown. And if I cry so many tears to feel the Mississippi River, don't despair, I'm wearing my blues just like a crown. In my face, it ain't smiling. Just know I can't be satisfied. Don't need to hide, I'm wearing my blues just like a crown. And feeling blues sometimes better than feeling nothing at all. So when I'm down, I'm wearing the blues just like that. Oh, like a crown. Oh, thank you. That's a Chris Holm song, man. I love that one.
I didn't really ask much, but does anyone have any questions about anything? I don't know, we're past 8 already. My, how the time flies, but no questions about anything? You think we don't know it? You think we don't know anything, huh? I see how it is. You're probably right, actually, but...
We've overwhelmed them with information.
What's your favorite song?
Favorite song to do? Amanda, what's your favorite song to do?
Depends on the day. Sometimes where events where it feels really good. Wang Dang Doodle can be a lot of fun. I like that last one we just did. That's a newer one.
No.
I'm enjoying that one. That's a pretty song.
That might be like the first time we've ever actually performed that song live.
It might be.
And you were here for it. Lucky you. All right. Mine would probably be one of Long Gone Lonesome Blues or Ask for Water, which we did already. We did both of those because I always do those songs because I just love playing them. I don't know. What's a prohibition? What's prohibited? This one? Do you want the history of these, or do you want to just know about this one in particular? Okay, well, you're gonna give me the opportunity to talk too much here, but apparently I seem to like to talk today. So, these kind of metal body guitars were invented by the National Corporation back in, I think, the 20s or something. Maybe earlier than that. The reason they were invented is that guitars were notoriously not loud enough to play with orchestras or to play in rowdy juke joints, for example. And so they needed something that was louder. And they thought, well, you know, what can we do to make this guitar that's not amplified be louder so that it can be heard? And giving it a metal body, and also this thing right here is called the cone. It really bounces the sound waves around, and it just makes it louder, naturally louder than a guitar that doesn't have that. And you may have also heard of dobros. Dobros are actually just a different style of this guitar, but they usually have a wood body, but they still have the resonator cone. But dobro is actually a brand name, and it was started by some of the same guys that started the original National Company. They branched off and formed their own country called Dobro to compete with the original company. But and the wood body dobros tend to be played more for like country bluegrass type stuff. So you see a bluegrass player, they're probably playing a dobro or a wood-bodied one that's designed after the original dobros. This is Republic is the brand. It was actually started by a guy that used to work for the National Corporation. But strangely enough, where they really got popular first was with Hawaiians. Hawaiians got a hold of them, and they're like, these things sound awesome, and they invented a style of playing slide. Well, they already had their style playing slide guitar, but they usually play it with flat, and they would. And then, so they were playing slide guitar on these, and so a lot of times when you find these metal body guitars, they'll have like Hawaiian designs on them, because they were originally really mainly popular with the Hawaiian guys playing guitar. But then the blues guys heard the Hawaiian slide style, and they adopted it for themselves, the Mississippi guys, and they started playing the metal body guitars too, because they could be heard in juke joint a little more than your standard Sears bought Stella guitar that they would buy. Wood body cheap Stella guitars that were popular at the time because they were cheap, and Sears would send them anywhere in the country you could get one. So, you know, even if you're a sharecropper living on a little farm in Mississippi, you could still get a Stella guitar and play for your friends on the weekends. But you go to the juke joint and no one could hear you. So then they started to get their hands on these metal bodied ones, and then they were loud enough, and then people could hear them, and they kind of developed a new style around playing these. But yeah, I bought this 7 or 8 years ago. Usually these are made of steel. This one's brass and copper. I sort of mainly just bought it because they match my hair, but it's like that'll you know, color coordinate here. But yeah, and it's a you know, kind of has that more of that. It's not quite as bright and sharp sounding as the steel ones. It's a little more mellow, which also is an added bonus. I like the metal, the steel body sound, but I actually like this one a little better. It's a little more mellow and a little smoother sound to it. They make them in Texas. They're actually not super expensive. They're probably less expensive. I paid $800 for this. Nationals are generally run around $2,000 to $3,000. National is still the gold standard of metal body guitar, though. Even though they're the original and they're still the standard. But you know, if you want to drive around the country with a guitar in your van, you probably don't want a $3,000 guitar in there. So I can afford it if an $800 guitar is stolen. If a $3,000 guitar got stolen, that'd be, on a musician's salary, that's not great. Anyway, did I miss anything? Anything else? Anybody? Any questions? Should we play probably one more song or so? What do you think, Amanda? I wish we were more interesting, so I had more questions for us. But oh, we got one. All right. So there's a pity question. Pity question from the back.
I think I just kind of grew up emulating the sounds that I heard. I wish I knew. I don't know. I'm a self-taught singer, even though I sang in choirs, through college and stuff. But I guess just from listening and singing along to the old records and just really enjoying that, and then just being somebody who my ear is always interested in the singer. I'm always like, ooh, what's the tone or what's the sound or like. So I think that kind of led me to really explore lots of different types of voices. And it just feels good. It feels really good in here to sing that way. I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. It feels good. It's like free therapy. You're all my therapists. I should be laying on a couch. No, but yeah, it's good.
All right.
Oh yeah. Through Mark, who was the drummer.
It was the drummer, Mark.
I went to your 4 on the Floor show.
Is that how it was?
Yeah.
Okay, so me and the original drummer of this band were in another band that was fairly popular around Minneapolis, and we don't want to talk about them right now because.
And I think we had a mutual friend.
Yes.
Also that introduced
yes.
us. I remember.
Jake Dilly.
Jake! There we go. Hey,
So
Jake.
a band that played a lot of shows with my band they knew Amanda, and she was actually, I think you talked to Mark at one of their shows.
Yeah.
And
Something like that. It's a small world, and in Minneapolis there's a lot of overlapping of musicians and different bands and getting together and people sitting in on each other's sets.
Is that us?
Is
that us?
I don't know.
Sorry
Like
about that.
this week alone, I'm like singing in 3 different bands, 3 or 4 different versions of bands, because I'm sitting in with 2 others. So there's you get to meet a lot of people.
Yes. It's definitely one of the benefits of being a musician is you meet a lot of people. It's also not amazing if you're, well, I mean, it's still amazing, but it's kind of, if you're not good at remembering people's names, like, I meet a lot of people that that think that they're good friends with me. Because, like, I've talked to them many times at shows, and they're like, hey, how's it going, Chris? And I'm like, sorry. I'm like, hey, how are you doing? I meet hundreds of people all the time. I wish I remembered your name. I know that. So you learn to just sort of act like you know someone. But it is really fun meeting all the people, and I try to remember everyone's names. Like, me and my bandmate Mark used to cheat, and we would put everyone's names in our phones and like program them to, like, when you go to a location, it would pull up a bunch of names of people, and it'd be like,
How do you spell that? T-I-M, Tim.
we'd review
So just
it.
1 M, not 2 or 3?
We'd review it before we got to the show. We'd be like, all right, who might be here? Let's go through whose names can we try to remember. But yes, meeting all the people is one of the best parts about being a musician. Like meeting musicians and just meeting people that come to shows and enjoy music, and you know. Well, I did find my phone, but I don't have anyone programmed in for here. So if you told me your name, I don't remember it. I'm sorry about that, but I'm trying to get better. But 15 years in, I don't know that there's a lot of hope for me.
But Minnesota and Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, is really like musician rich. I think, like I lived briefly in the Bay Area, and you would think like, oh, there's probably a lot of creative types out there, but it was really expensive, like to have a practice space, and so it was a lot. Just by that alone, a lot more expensive to play, and so there's a lot fewer bands, and so I'm sure there was still a lot of musicians, but you didn't get to meet and like cross-pollinate, if you will, as much because they didn't have the space to practice and to meet the people, and you had to have 2 jobs just to afford rent. And yeah, you live right next to your neighbor. You don't have a basement where you can practice. People have the space here to do it and explore it. So that's kind of a cool thing about living in Minneapolis or Minnesota that maybe people don't realize is that space and the less of that price tag on your rented spaces makes a big difference and allows us to connect more and build that community.
Yeah, you'll be hard pressed to find a musician in Minneapolis that doesn't play at least part-time in like 3 bands.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you're in Minneapolis and you play music, there's at least 3 other bands that are asking you to play music with them at all times. So, well, I don't have time to play a couple shows with you guys. It's hard, and also you're Minnesotan, so you have a hard time saying no.
Yeah. Hence why I'm doing 4 different iterations in 1 week. But I like it. It's fun. I do it every night if I could. But my day job is I'm a teacher. I teach special education, so it's
Me
nice
too,
to
except
have the
I
summertime so I can be out here with you, find people. Not
different.
have to like be in bed. Lesson planning right now.
Anything else? You just want to know? Not necessarily related to anything? Yes.
All right, she's a teacher. What do you do?
I teach some music lessons, but mainly I play music. I do a lot of solo stuff too, and travel all around and play, and sleep in my van, and live like a vagabond. And
He does have a place to land.
I'm not homeless, but I am home. I
By choice.
yeah, I have a home, but I sleep in my van a lot though, because it's when you're driving around the country and you're a musician, getting a hotel every night's not necessarily the best for the budget. So I know Walmart's very well. There's always like a little campground in Walmart parking lots. You ever drive to Walmart and there's RVs everywhere? You might see me there too. I might be there. But yeah, it's actually I kind of enjoy it. I kind of prefer sleeping in my van sometimes when I'm on the road because then it's just like you don't have to worry about hauling your stuff into the hotel and checking in, and you just pull up to Walmart. Hop in the back, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, you're good to go. And you're back on the road.
One time we were on the road and we were at a rest stop, and I was sleeping. I think I was in the front seat. I think I just reclined it because by then I was like, my back was like, whatever, I'll just sleep here. I'm not gonna try to lay in the back. And I was sound asleep, and all of a sudden I hear crunch, 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 and it was Chris climbing onto the roof. And he was sleeping up there, so we get in sleep any way we can when you're on the road. I'm sorry, where's that tip jar? Just kidding. But no, it's fun. Maybe we'll get a big tour van someday.
Yeah, get a big tour bus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, should we do another song for these fine folks?
Yeah, do one more song.
then follow it up.
What do we got? What do we got there, Captain? You do it in the Pines. You want to do it in the Pines? Oh, pressured into it, huh? All right.
Soul of a man or tiger?
Oh, which one do you want to do?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. We could do. Let's do 2 more. Is it okay if we do 2 more songs? I know we're a little over budget here. We're a little over time budget here, but apparently long-winded. Talk too much. What do you want to do? Pick 2. Pines and Tiger? All right. All right, we're gonna do a lead belly song here. Otherwise known as, you know, if you ask most people, they'll say it's a Nirvana song. I think you're all probably mostly of the generation that would know this as a lead belly song, more so than a Nirvana song, but we are not, and so all our friends think this is a Nirvana song from the 1990s.
We've laughed about that in practice, and then a couple shows later, my friend came and was like, "This is the Nirvana song!" And I'm like,
Can't believe you played a Nirvana song. Like,
"Make me look bad." No, I'm just kidding.
All right, sorry, we're stalling here.
This guy has someplace to be.
Well, my girl, don't you let me. Tell me where did you sleep last night? In the pines where the sun don't ever shine. I would shiver the whole night through. Oh, my girl, tell me where you go. I'm going with it. Cold wind blows in the pines where the sun don't ever shine. I would shiver the whole night through. Well, my husband was a railroad man. He was killed about a mile and a half from here. All his head was found in the dropping weed, but his body was never found. Oh, my girl, tell me where you go. I'm going with it. Cold wind blows in the pines where the sun don't ever shine. I wish it would the whole
My girl, don't lie to me. Tell me where did you sleep last night? In the pines where the sun don't ever shine. I would shiver the whole night through. Oh, my husband was a railroad man, killed a mile and a half from here. His head was found in a driver's wheel, and his body had never been found. My girl, where will you go? Somewhere where the cold wind blows. In the pines where the sun don't ever shine. I would shiver the whole night through. In the pines where the sun don't ever shine. I would shiver the whole night through. In the the sun don't ever shine, I would shiver. Let's see if we remember this one. All right. All right, well, thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure. Apparently, we had enjoyed ourselves too much here, since we're a half hour over schedule here, but I think most of you are still here, so apparently you're hanging in, you're suffering.
They've either been threatened
you're
or
suffering right here with us. So.
Y'all look too nice for that.
Well, I like the way you look in the love, your little car. But you drive too slow, you don't go very far. Well, I talk to you, baby, your mind is all to blame. Oh, I wanna put a tiger in your tank. Everything you do, you know, knocks me out. Yeah, I want you to feel good, want you to jump and shout. Well, I got no money, you know, in the bank. I wanna put a tiger in a tank. Well, I can raise your hood, I can check you up, check your transmission and give it up. I get what people think. I wanna put a tiger in your tank. Come on, car is pumping and it is listening to. Well, there's only one thing left for you to do. Well, you give it a push and your car won't break. Lord, I wanna put a tiger in your tank, in your tank. Well, I can raise your hood, I can check you up, check your transmission, give it all. I don't care what the people think. I wanna put a tiger in your tank. Well, I put a tiger in your tank.
Put a tiger in your tank.
Well, I put a tiger in your
Put a
tank.
tiger in your
Well,
tank.
I put a tiger in your tank.
Put a tiger in your
Well,
tank.
I put a tiger in
Put
your
a tiger in your
Well,
tank.
I will put a tiger in your
Put a tiger in your
Well,
tank.
I will put a tiger in
Put a tiger in your tank.
Well, I put a tiger.
Put a tiger
I
in
put a
your tank.
tiger. I put a tiger. I put a tiger. tiger in your tank.
Put a tiger in your tank. Put a tiger in your tank. Put a tiger in your tank. Put a tiger in your tank. Put a tiger in your tank. Put a tiger in your tank.
Oh, now I don't care what the people think. I want to put a tiger in your tank.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, everyone. See, my name is Chris. This is Amanda. We're the Fattenin Frogs.